What's going on, guys? Running it back with another replay for you here on Jade Tomb. Another tournament match from the most recent tournament that Turin hosted. We've got Kroaked in the Horned one. We've got 2 Rev Crystals, tons of Skink Cohort Javelins, Star Chamber Guardians, and they're going to be protecting Lord Kroaked here. Kroaked is coming in with his full toolkit, except for the Spell Mastery. I needed to cut down a little bit somewhere, so I got rid of that. Really wanted to bring the Golden Death Mask, which does debuff melee attack by -8, which is pretty substantial, especially against vampires, who have pretty low melee attack to begin with on a lot of their units. It's going to make the Cryptors especially a lot less effective. So Kroaked does eat a Spirit Leech. Strigoi Vampire King, or Vampire Lord, rather. There is a King variant. Is going to be out here on the field. Takes some Javelin Fire, though, which is pretty nice, equalizing the value a little bit, forcing the Restoration out from this guy. He does have Regen. He's also got the Hunger and the Ghoul King of Usharon, which is a fat heal just on himself. This is one of the more powerful Vampire Lords, in my opinion. If you really want to go heavy metal, anti-large dueling, which is like perfect against lizards, obviously. This is the perfect lord. Very self-sufficient, has some pretty good magic options. Obviously, Invo's on the table, as well as Spirit Leech for extra sniping capabilities. Big force of zombies with some Graveguard Halberds moving in, threatening a little bit of a deliverance of pizza back here. But canceling that and popping the Cold-Blooded just to throw Alexander off a little bit. I was trying to test the waters here for his micro and see how aware he was going to be of these spells. I do get a pretty good pop here with it. It does a decent amount of HP damage. Doesn't actually get any kills, though, which is a little unfortunate. But we do have the Skink Cohorts moving up, and they're getting some very cost-efficient Javelin Fire onto the Cryptors here, taking an absolute pounding. These guys are very lightly armored. And the Javelins are actually very powerful in terms of the actual missile strength they have. They've got decent AP values on them and good base missile damage as well. So you can see this Cryptor is just getting absolutely wrecked right now. I mean, down to less than half HP. Kroaked gets into battle, and the Umbral Tide open up as well, doing big damage to both of these Cryptors now. Another Deliverance of Itza coming in here, just charging up, and it is going to do some sick damage in here. It does have a pretty long wind-up time, but you can see there, pretty cheeky little effect, and just absolutely wrecks everything in this pocket. Even does some good damage to the Cryptors. Just because it does actually, I believe that was the tier 2, it does 50 damage, 40 of it being HP. It does actually do okay work against monstrous infantry. Both of the Cryptors are on death's bed. One of them is actually gone entirely, and the other is down to 13 models and taking more and more chunky damage here. Good fire from the Umbral Tide. They get some very good damage on the Unholy Lodestone here, but great micro on the Dire Pack. Squeezing through the middle of this engagement, while my Cold One Spear Riders are positioned up on the flank. Really nice stuff from Alexander. Definitely no slouch here, and I'm getting a good value lead, but the Umbral Tide looking a little vulnerable back here, and I'm a little too slow on my Cold One Spear Riders. They're a little out of position. Very busy trying to get Kroaked out of this pocket here. You can see he's trying to find a way through, but getting a little stuck up right now, and fighting toe-to-toe with the Strigoi Vampire Lord, maybe not the best option for him. There are also Graveguard Halberds who are doing some good damage to the Rev Crystals, so I'm going to be having a bit of a full retreat here from this position and trying to make my way out. Umbral Tide doing a little bit of close-range damage to the Dire Pack with their shots, which is saving me a little bit of lost value. I have gotten a decent chunk of work done with those guys. Not too afraid of the position that I'm in on the battlefield. We are wearing down some Cairn Wraiths back here. Skink Cohort Javelins just surround these guys and just wear them down. These guys don't have great combat stats, and the Skinks with a full surround are able to actually wear them out. One Skink does get terrified, though, which is a little unfortunate for me. Bringing out some Cold Wind Spear Riders now to try and get some work done. Umbral Tide get ripped apart by the Dire Pack, but they basically paid for themselves. Not too terrible, and the Kroxigors are moving in to finish those guys off there. Kroaked and the Star Chamber Guardians in the meantime. 270 kills on the Star Chamber Guardians, just obliterating everything in this pocket. Spears and zombies alike unable to last in for very long. Cold Wind Spear Riders, though, the issue with this fight here, I sent these guys in thinking that it was just zombies and stuff. I didn't actually notice the Graveguard Halberds getting into this combat. Too busy and hyper-focused on Kroaked, dropping a Rev Crystal heal on him, and moving a bunch of units in now. Another Deliverance of Itza going down. It also doesn't do friendly fire damage, so you can cast it on top of your own units without fear of hurting them. Gets a big pop here on the Graveguard Halberds and the Skeleton Warriors. Kroaked gets about 100 kills there with one big spell cast. Very nice for me. I am falling behind a little bit on the value, though, losing a lot of my width in the army now. Banking a lot of supplies, looking for an opportunity to maybe get a engagement against the supreme numbers of the vampire counts here, and help out all of these skink cohorts. The skink cohorts have been doing pretty nicely, actually. A lot of them paying for themselves very well. But losing my home objective here, and only just now flipping the #1, and Alexander just hounding Kroaked down. I thought Kroaked would be a pretty safe bet against the vampire counts, but a little bit out of place here against the Strigoi Vampire Lord, and just getting worn down by this guy. The Spirit Leeches have been pretty punishing. He's just all over Kroaked. You know, he's got pretty good melee attack and a great bonus versus large of 35. And he's just not giving him any space to do his thing. So he does jump back up in the air before the Spear Riders get on top of him. Spear Riders did clean up some Crypt Ghouls over on the side, get some good damage on them, wearing them down for the Kroxigors to get into combat against them. The Kroxigors going to be in a pretty ugly situation here, with like a 6v1 against them, but they've got pretty good defensive stats. Chunky armor, decent leadership, and you know, a good bonus versus infantry against low melee defense units over here. Means they should get some pretty good work done. Another Deliverance of Itza getting cast here. Alexander trying to get his forces out of the way of it, but they're so blobbed up, they're actually kind of blocking each other in to the radius of it. And you can see just taking like huge chunks of HP out of all of those units. Another slick chunk of damage for Lord Kroaked here. And all of the units on the middle objective here absolutely obliterated by the Star Chamber Guardians and Kroaked. Big values on each of those guys. And the Rev Crystals and Kroaked are very healthy. Definitely going to need them to be, because Kroaked did just get killed out here on the flank. Unfortunately not able to get away from the Strigoi Vampire Lord. He actually did route off the side instead. But I am keeping enough Cold Wind Spear Riders in close contact with the Strigoi Vampire Lord that he's not quite able to get up in the air. You saw him squeak back up into the skies earlier. But the Spear Riders do actually keep him locked in combat on the ground. This very tattered Spear Rider gets into combat with him, and now I'm going to recollapse onto him. He is healing capped. He has taken a lot of damage this game. Kroaked was able to fight him and do some good damage to him. The Umbral Tide hit this guy a decent amount, as well as some javelins. So he's very low, and getting surrounded by the Spear Riders here, you can see them really chewing into the HP pool. These guys got the same model change that Seekers and the Cold Wind Knights for the Dark Elves got. So they're very good at piling into combat against SEs now. They were kind of bad previously. They couldn't all surround this guy and get all their weapons on target. But now that they can, their weapon strength is decent enough with a good enough bonus versus large to get through the 47 melee defense this guy has. And even though they get routed off, 2,400 value on that Spear Rider, they make up for the poor performance of the other one. And they're keeping the Strigoi Vampire Lord very isolated from the other fights going on across the battlefield. Another Deliverance of Itza popping on top of the Spear Riders, doing some good damage to the Cairn Wraiths. And Vampires very overextended now. Big value lead. And I've gotten a lot of heals off on a lot of targets with the Rev Crystals. I've used up 4 out of each of the 7 uses that both of the Rev Crystals have. Popping them on all kinds of targets. Using them on the Rev Crystals themselves. Star Chamber Guardians have gotten a couple of uses onto them. It's a 10% heal out of each one of them. So very nice for me. Tons of Saurus Spears move up onto the objectives to help out the Kroaked, who have done a really good job of anchoring this position, retaking the number 2, solid hold on the number 1 now, and the Vampires have really lost most of the chaff, and the Cryptors and the Cairn Wraiths are just not able to find any safe places on the map. Kroak's Deliverance of Itza, devastating work against the Cairn Wraiths. The Coldwind Spear Riders, with their good charge bonus, just absolutely flatten these skeleton warriors here. Take about half of the HP off of them. The Rev Crystals have their little Howdah skinks on the sides, who are getting some pretty good work done with the Javelins, as well as these guys just being anti-infantry with big armor values. They've done a very good job of just hanging in here and, you know, making the lives of the Vampire Counts a living hell right now. Really difficult to get any effective value with a lot of these units, with all of the healing on station, as well as the Deliverances of Itza. I've had a couple of good uses of Supreme Shield of the Old Ones as well, which has really mitigated a lot of the damage that the Star Chamber Guardians might have been taking, as well as Lord Kroaked. Kroaked has taken some HP damage here, but he's pretty thick. He's got 6,800 health, so really not any kind of risk for him right now. Umbral Tide moving up with some more Coldwind Riders. All of the Coldwind Riders have been hammering home and getting some decent effective HP damage, and really just providing a lot of mass, keeping Vampire Counts off of points, as well as locking them in place for the Deliverances of Itza. Supreme Shield of the Old Ones dissipating here, last few seconds of it going down, while we're trying to finish off the Cryptars and these Graveguard. Star Chamber Guardians are just a ridiculously strong unit, and do get Unbreakable, as well as having Guardian, which means that Kroaked is taking less damage than ever, as well as getting Unbreakable as long as they're by him. They've just been a really nice, durable goon squad, basically. You know, the Rev Crystals are escorting Kroaked around, while the Star Chamber Guardians are just anchoring the number 1. And moving where they're needed, which has kind of been over here the entire game up to this point. They haven't had to do a whole lot of maneuvering up to this point. Just beating all comers on this middle objective, which is like, this is the perfect map for this build. This build has a little bit of trouble on the maps where there's 3 objectives in the center of the map. But when you've got a home objective and you can just sit this absolute world beater of a squad on the middle objective, there's really not a lot your opponent can do, especially against Undead, where they're very reliant on their chaff units to try and persevere against your waves and waves of superior infantry and mobility. You can see here, just dropping more fat base shots here, and just obliterating the chaff, man. Kroaked up to 409 kills, 2,700 value on him. He costs 1,800 with what I brought. Big value on him. Star Chamber Guardians paying for themselves. 411 kills from these guys. Kroaked doing pretty good as well. They've almost paid for themselves, anchoring with the Saurus Spears, working down these Cairn Wraiths. I do lose the Umbral Tide again. The Dire Pack get on top of them. But I do isolate the Dire Pack in the woods with the Coldwind Riders, who, with the superior armor that they have, decent enough weapon strength, they should be able to finish off the Dire Pack in the woods here. Although the Dire Pack being in the favorable terrain does mean that they get a lot of extra damage on the Coldwind Riders. But I do still have a value lead, doing pretty nicely for myself. Strigoi Vampire Lord, incredibly weak now, but 4,000 value on the Vampire Lord. Beautiful stuff. Healing capped, fighting Kroaked yet again, and Kroaked just cannot get any value. You know, I'm definitely going to be bringing him on foot this next time that I have him, just to save the money, and I'll just keep him with Kroaked and the Star Chamber Guardians. I think that'd be better than trying to use him to respawn across the battlefield. That was my initial idea, was Kroaked and the Rev Crystals run around with each other to support, but he's been very vulnerable to getting jumped on top of, and you don't want to lose your Lord under any circumstances. But here he does draw the Devils of Schwarzhofen out of position as they try to finish him off, and the Spear Riders get another great engagement. This is the one that was chewing on the Vampire Lord earlier, and now they are just ripping the Devils of Schwarzhofen apart and really saving Kroaked's bacon here. Kroaked does get terrified. He is going to route out of this position, kind of. Rallies, pops Sacred Spawning of Jwaddle, which is a physical resistance and vigor-reducing spell. So he's going to be extra juicy into the late game here. And we do finish off the Flying Vampire Lord, which is beautiful stuff for us. Very tattered remains of the Vampire Count's army, trying to move up and hang on to their home objective, but barely hanging on to a ticket lead here. Coldland Spear Riders move up, and the Crypt Ghouls, they are moving across the field. They are stalked, so I didn't quite realize they were here. I saw the Spearmen coming out, so I moved some Spear Riders just to position for an eventual charge onto these guys, but do retreat when I see the Crypt Ghouls bringing over the other Spear Rider, which is going to be lancing these guys down. We'll get a nice little double team on those Crypt Ghouls, who have very light armor and pretty easy to run over. They're a decent unit against Skinks, but they really struggle against the mobility that the Lizardmen bring to the table. And you can see here just why. I mean, they just get absolutely wrecked by the charge bonus of the Spear Riders. And they're just getting flattened right now, which is really brutal for the Vampire Counts. This is their last desperate attempt to try and cap these objectives. Star Chamber Guardians move across the field with Kroaked sitting on top of one another. Kroaked with 3,000 value, 446 kills. He's actually been over here dropping some of his little magical attacks against the Spearmen here. It's looking very scary with the teeth there, man. Pretty terrifying. And the Star Chamber Guardians, anchoring on top of them, have just been absolutely clutch. And they've still got a ton of room on their healing cap. A couple of uses on each of these Rev Crystals. We're going to be going down on top of those guys. But Alexander does throw in the towel there. And concedes. Very fun game, though. I really love this build against Undead. It's pretty good, in my opinion, against the Vampire Counts, because Vampires love to blob up in general, because, you know, they need the healing from the corpse carts, they need their Crypt Horrors to be sitting on chaff, and it just gives Kroaked all the impetus in the world and opportunity in the world to be able to just obliterate the infantry positions. And this 446 kills was pretty critical. You know, actually finishing off a lot of models, meaning that the Invocations of Nehek were doing a lot less resurrecting and a lot more healing, as well as working down the models so the corpse carts can't heal up those entities, was pretty awesome. And in addition, you can see here 427 on the Star Chamber Guardians, but they only got 1900 value. They were doing a lot of work themselves. Kroaked was also just getting a ton of damage on all of those infantry targets. He really helped wear down the Cairn Wraiths, who were a pretty unmanageable threat for me at various points. You can see they got pretty good value, paying for themselves both times over, pretty much. They were terrifying a lot of Skinks away, and doing a lot of damage to my Kroxigors and the Cold One Riders, as well as the Spears. But Kroaked was able to equalize that a little bit with the magical damage that he was doing to them, making it a little bit easier to be able to maintain my presence on the battlefield from all of the terror that my opponent was bringing to the table. And losing my Lord early was pretty painful. That's why a lot of those terror routes were having such effect on me, and why I lost my home objective at one point. But I was able to push up the superior cap weight and was able to thin the Vampire Count's ranks enough that I was able to retake and reassert control over the battlefield. Good value on the Spear Riders, great value on the Umbral Tide as well. Both of these units were pretty critical to getting the dub here for me. These guys just chewed the Vampire Lord up on that flank in the mid-game after he routed Kroaked off, which was very favorable for me. It put him into a heal cap situation, and he just wasn't able to stay on the battlefield long enough to carry the game, which he was really close to doing. 4,000 value is pretty insane. Thankfully, though, I did have the Rev Crystals, who popped a lot of heals. They healed up Kroaked pretty nicely. A lot of that value from the Vampire Lord is tied up in Kroaked, of course. But also, healing up the Star Chamber Guardians and the Kroxigors. Couple heals on the Cold Wind Riders and other such units. Just being very versatile heal tools. 10% heals, 7 uses of that. You can healing cap just about every unit on the field if you get all of the uses out of these guys. If you're focusing those units down with the 10% heals. It really racks up, and it really made it difficult for the vampire counts to get like a genuine value lead. Even when I was down at one point in the mid-game, it was a little bit deceptive because of the healing that I had on the table, which is a very rare circumstance. Usually the vampire counts are the healing faction, and they're the ones who are benefiting from all the healing, but again, as I said, Kroaked and the Star Chamber Guardians just obliterating that middle position, killing literally almost half of the enemy's army just between the two of them, was crucial to my eventual victory. So that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I hope y'all appreciated seeing a little bit of Kroaked action here. I'll catch y'all on the next one, and I'll see y'all later. GG's. Peace.